So we are here live on a Tuesday, different day, but at the end of the day, it's still a great day. Jake, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm just happy to get back talking. I missed Friday, as if you guys, for those who tuned in on Friday, I missed Friday, and so I was so disappointed that I missed it. Like I was so bummed, but I had a little emergency, so missed Friday. But it's happy to finally be back. Granted, it's not Monday, but it's Tuesday. Just happy to be back and talking football again because there's still a lot going on. We're getting closer and closer to season. It's crazy.
And before we jump into football, this is how y'all know this show isn't scripted, right? So I'm going to tell you something, Jake, that just makes me so angry, right?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear this.
I just tried to kick off the show right here on YouTube and on Twitter as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you exactly why I refuse to call it X. It's because of what I'm about to say.
Okay.
So I just get the notification that you can no longer live stream to Twitter unless you pay Twitter per month
to
live stream on their platform. So
what
I can't go live
Premium
on
Plus or something.
Yeah, you have to have premium to live stream on Twitter now. And I'm not paying for Twitter. I'm sorry,
bro. I pay for it. So we might have to do it on mine in the future. We might have to go to the set the tone area.
I'm just one of those. Like, it's weird, man. I'm 29.
Yeah.
But I'm the most boomer 29-year-old you'll ever see, where it's just like I don't do social media.
Dude.
If I didn't do YouTube, y'all wouldn't I wouldn't have a Twitter, I wouldn't have anything. Like I haven't been on my Facebook since 2018.
Yeah.
I'm just not moved by social media, and so when I see Twitter, and it's like, okay, brother, if
Twitter.
If Elon was like getting the platform to where you don't instantly see every OnlyFans promotion under every post, and I didn't get like 45 messages from bot accounts a day, it'd be like, okay, I might pay you. But what am I paying you for?
Dude, yeah, the bot accounts, man. Yeah, like OnlyFans. And I wish they would put mine out there more often so I can make some more money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a really good foot one for OnlyFans. If you guys really like nice, pretty feet. Check it out.
See, I can't even do that. I got stepped on so many times by horses. My toes are all just like.
Oh, dude, that's brutal, man. I remember being a little kid before we get into some football talk, right? I remember being a little kid, and my grandpa, because we own my granddad had a cattle ranch. You and me talked about this before.
Yeah.
But with the horses, they'd always be like, "Hey, do not walk behind the horses. You're already half deaf. If you want to get cross-eyed too, you get hit in the face by a horse kicking you from behind. Do not walk." Dude, I always took this 15, 20 yard radius, you know what I'm saying? Just to make sure I didn't get kicked in the face by a horse. Because I'm already deaf. I just don't want to be cross-eyed,
Yeah, I was lucky I got kicked, but it was by a baby horse.
Oh, good.
I just got 3 messages today, Corporate Duck, from bots. I get genuinely, I get 20 plus messages every day from bots on there. And it's just like, Elon, you've done a lot of things great. You do a lot of things great, man.
So
Tesla,
good.
You've done a lot of good there. Tesla truck is a little iffy, but everything else, well done. SpaceX, well done. Boring Company, well done. But Twitter did not used to have this problem. It did not. I do not have an Instagram C-dub. Okay, technically I do, but it's just because the way I had to get in contact with my tattoo artist here in Denton was by reaching out through Instagram. So I have a faceless 0 follower, only following one person. That's all I do on Twitter, right? Coach Carl in the building. Coach Carl, if you want in, you just let me know, man. I'll shoot you a link. Good seeing you in here, Coach Carl. Oh, of course, Corporate Duck. Never shoot the messenger.
Would
never shoot the messenger. Joseph Davidson saying, guys, what's up? Hope everybody is having a good week, right? It's EA NCAA 25 week. So, in my free time, I've been playing that. There's a lot to be excited about for Bama on the game, right? Jalen Milroe's a monster. Kendrick Law is a cheat code, an absolute cheat code on the game.
Wild.
I am excited, though, for the season to get here and Alabama's offensive line to show how improved they are, because it's wild, Jake. You and I were talking about this heading to Gotcha, Coach. Well, thank you for being here.
100.
So whenever you look at Alabama's offensive line in the game, Pritchett has a star, Booker has a star, Brailsford has a star, and I think Roberts has a star. But there's still a little bit to be desired in terms of the pass blocking. And listen, Jake, you and I have talked about this. You have made me a believer, but I will be honest, and I must be maybe overly critical. I can't fault EA for being like, okay, well, we're not going to give them a top-tier pass blocking unit whenever they gave up the second most sacks in the nation. Right? It's like, okay, I feel you as long as whenever that offensive line starts getting it going, that we fix that up. Coach Carl saying Law is unstoppable. He's ridiculous.
Super good.
Bro, I send him on like deep posts all the time. Occupy the safeties, right? Send him on a deep post, get him that little bit of wiggle room, and he's gone. Justice Haynes is super balanced. I'll tell you who's really good is Jam Miller.
Really?
Jam's like real good. Richard Young's really good. Milrose exceptional. Zabian Brown on the defense, though.
Really?
Jake,
balling.
I think they're trying to tell us something.
Gosh, dude.
He's already on my dynasty. I just played Tennessee, beat Tennessee.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
He's already got like 3 or 4 interceptions and a pick 6. Malachi is out there doing his thing. Sab is out there doing his thing. And I'll tell you what, LT Overton is like a sack machine. So there's a lot to love, right? There's a lot to be excited about. You haven't gotten to pick it up yet, have you?
No, not yet. I gotta make some cash to do that.
I get you.
No, I'm excited, man.
We need to promote
dude,
it, right?
That's right. All about those feet, people. But it's I'm excited to play when I get the chance to. It'll be fun. I know there's a lot of talk around like the offense being like phenomenal in the game, and defense is actually really hard to play. I don't know if that's true or.
It's tough. It's tough. It's not undoable, but it definitely is a learning curve on defense. Like I'm playing on Heisman mode.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think the most I have gotten scored on was 24 points.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I won like 52-24, right?
Gotcha.
But I will say it was actually, I think, the Tennessee game where they put up 24, and it's just because Tennessee has a really solid rush attack.
Okay.
And they do no huddle in that game. And that veer and shoot offense that they're running, right? Like it's quick. And if they get on a roll, it can be a little bit not tough to stop them, but enough to where like they're putting together a drive and next thing you know. And then there are some coverages, right, where I'm rolling the dice, right? And then they hit a soft spot in the zone and it's like, okay, you just got a huge touchdown, but like the rest of your drive was like nothing. So defense is certainly hard. But it's not undoable, and it's not something to where I'm like, I don't necessarily know that I agree with all the complaints. Like Coach Carl says, if you get in the rhythm of things, you're going to be just fine. But it's not undoable. But this, like I said, I used to play a lot of Madden, and I'm definitely rusty. Like, I'm nowhere near what I used to be. I used to be, Jake, a user interception like menace.
Dude, I feel you. I used to be like that too when I went back in the day playing NCAA, man. Because I would just play the safety, and I would just play it like I would play it.
I'll tell you one thing that's interesting is in a lot of the 4-2-5, and Coach Carl, you've probably seen this. And Anthony, I haven't gotten to play any of Miami yet, but I imagine Cam Ward is a monster in the game. Let's be honest, Cam Ward's a monster in real life. Anthony, if you were over here, Jay of Unfair Sports and I, both on these live streams and on Bleacher Report, were screaming to the hills every single week, Washington State, Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Washington State, Cam Ward. Go watch him. He's a monster.
So
and
good.
y'all got you one. And as Anthony points out, how great of a 10-day stretch would it be if Miami, if they get DJ Pickett and Jabari? Incredible.
It'd be amazing. I don't know if they're gonna get Pickett though. I know that's gonna be a tight one between Oregon and Miami, but I think he's more of that Oregon lean, especially with what we're hearing, what they're doing defensive back wise. Oregon is making some serious wild moves in their defensive back class. I will tell you that for 25.
Well, C-Dub here says looks like Offord might either flip to Auburn or Oregon now. Don't know what happened to Bama being in the mix. So it's one of those things, C-Dub, where like just because something is awesome, let me put it like this. This is going to be a great analogy, Jake. You're going to like this.
All right, I'm ready.
Filet mignon is objectively, not subjectively, one of the best cuts of meat in the world, right? Like there's even a lower grade filet mignon has the ability to just be unbelievable, right? It's tender. Yes. It's everything you could want. That being said, just because objectively it's one of the best pieces of meats out there, and I'm not saying like we're rating this as compared to A5 Wagyu. I mean filet mignon, period. So like A5 filet, just like the cut.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean everybody's going to love filet mignon.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so I think it's just one of those things, C-Dub, where it's like the staff has done their due diligence. They've tried. If he's not feeling it, more power to you. No love lost, right? Not everything is for everyone. And I'm going to be honest with you, C-Dub. I personally would much rather someone be honest and be like, hey, if I'm not feeling Alabama, I want to go somewhere else. That's why I really love what Dawson Merritt did. Really took his time, self-reflected, because if he felt Nebraska more, he's going to be more successful going to Nebraska. He's going to be happier, right? He's going to be less inclined to hit the transfer portal. He's going to be better in terms of roster, in terms of locker room presence. And that's what I'm saying, right? Like if Offord is incredible. He's an incredible football player. Of course, I'd love to have him in the recruiting class, but I also want him to make the decision he feels like is best for him, because not only will that put him in the best place to succeed, but it will also be best for all the guys around him, right? Because if you want to be there, you're more likely to be a great teammate. And I'm not claiming that he wouldn't be. Please don't soundbite this and be like, oh, you're saying, no. My point here is I want all of these guys to go with where they want to, because they're more likely to find success there. What do you think about that?
Nah, that's a great way of saying it, man. At the end of the day, you do got to go exactly where you feel home, where you feel like, hey, this is somewhere where I'm going to be. Hence, we're looking at it with like Derek Meadows going through his decision process right now, right? Like really figuring out what's the right place for you. And you're like, I'm going to be there for the next 3 to 4 years, maybe 5. You never know what happens to your career, but this is where a place I know I can thrive with the team, with the coaching staff, with the guys around me. Because here's another big thing too, when you look at it, especially today with the coaches that have changed left and right, it feels like. But the thing what it comes down to is, instead of, obviously committing to play for certain guys is a big part of it. It's a big percentage of it. At the same time, I think when it really comes down to is like, how do you feel with the guys in the locker room, right? Because if you can really bond, Debor talks about like player-led team. And that is the truth. If you can really bond with these guys in most systems, as long as you have obviously a good coach in place, but if you can really bond with these guys and have that player-led team, then you guys will be successful together. And that's kind of the goal, right? So go somewhere where you can feel at home and be successful together,
Yeah, I just want all the guys to make the best decision for themselves. And C-Dub, 100%. I definitely didn't take it as you were knocking him. And that if I made you feel like that way in my response, I apologize. That certainly wasn't my intention to to project that. I just saw an opportunity to make a larger point, not necessarily to you, but to like, oh, and there's the camera, right? But I just saw an opportunity to make a larger point, something that I talk about a lot in recruiting, and I just saw an opportunity to make a larger point. So I certainly didn't take it as that was your perspective or anything like that.
No.
Stephen G says, "What a great get in Tai Haywood to Alabama." And I think this is a great place for us to start talking. Look, it's SEC Media Days. There are some topics we can hit there, but I think that what we really need to do is talk some recruiting. Smooth, I'm going to star your comment. Actually, you know what? We'll jump into Smooth's comment, and then we'll go into Tai Haywood, because I think that's just it's gonna make more sense to talk about that in that order. Yeah, there we go. I had to do all this.
Yeah, no worries. It's the way it rolls sometimes.
Is he taking the stage right now, Chris? Let me know. So Smooth asks, what's the word on Anthony Rogers, Ty? So one, Smooth, I'm no insider. I'm certainly no insider. I don't know anything like past probably what most of you know, right? And if I did, I wouldn't say it, and I very, 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 very rarely do. But I just look at it like this: either if Ackland Deer commits to Alabama, which Alabama's in the hunt for him, right? Whether he does or doesn't remains to be seen. But Alabama's doing everything they can to try and get him. He's going to be in a class that is going to have 2 running backs.
Yeah.
Right? Like either way. I really want them to keep Anthony Rogers in the class. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and I think in this offense he is going to be a mismatch. But it is one thing, and this is the only area where I get it, Jake. I understand like where Ohio State may have a chance to flip him. Let me be very poignant with this, because I don't want any Ohio State fans to think I'm saying they don't have a great running back room. You arguably have the number 1 or number 2 running back room in the nation, right? Like Alabama fans are going to say Alabama, but I'm not going to call an Ohio State fan crazy for looking at their running back room and being like, well, what about us? It's going to be like, yeah, fair play. Judkins. I love Travion Henderson. I think like Steven, Mars, you guys, been around the channel forever. You've heard me talk about Travion Henderson for years now. Love that kid. Really hope he's healthy. But I think in terms of after next year, it's a much more linear path to playing time at Ohio State in the running back room than at Alabama. Right? Do you think that's fair, Jake? Because Bama doesn't have the proven guys that Ohio State has.
Yeah.
Bama's got Haynes, who's a sophomore. Richard Young, who's a sophomore. Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley, and Jam Miller, he's going into his junior year, so he could exercise one more year. Yeah. I mean, you've got that room is full for a while, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What are your thoughts on that?
Here's what I think, though, what's interesting with the running back position, right? Because it is a position that the longer you stay healthy, then the more, value you have, truthfully, because if you can come out and continue to learn and get the reps, right, you might not be the premier guy, right, but you can go out and you can get the reps, and especially in a system that they run under Debor and Sheridan, what you'll see this rotation. Like, we'll see a 3-headed monster in the backfield this year. And going forward, depending on obviously if Jam has one of those years where he's off to the NFL, right? Then you slot in the next guy. You have the opportunity to come in and compete against these other guys, but at the same time, just because you don't make it right away out onto the field, one of the things that it helps you do is preserve your body. You can grow, you get stronger, and you can learn. And in turn, just prime yourself for your opportunity. And when your opportunity comes, then you really take that opportunity, you run with it, right? And from there, I think a lot of guys, from a running back standpoint, if they can understand like the longevity is a big deal in the running back world, where yeah, you want to see the field, but at the same time, longevity, because you just get worn, you get beat down, especially today. Like the athlete today, even from back when I played, right? Like the athletes get bigger, stronger, faster. It's a car crash out there when you're in the field. And you
Yeah.
take that over and over and over again, your body's going to get worn down no matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are. Adrian Peterson was one of the few backs who had the ability
An
to
anomaly.
yeah, seriously. I mean, he's a beast, like insane. So
that's always what I mean when I say the exception as opposed to the rule, right? Because sometimes I'll give a statement and people are like, oh, but what about this? And I'm like, you're right. You're certainly right. But is that the norm, right? And Adrian Peterson is as far from the norm as we could have.
Dude, wild, man. For a running back, too. That was impressive what he was able to do. I mean, that's why he's my favorite offensive. When we pick those players, when we were talking about, I love Adrian Peterson, but yeah, that's what it comes down to with the running back. So with Turbo, it will be interesting. I think the next thing with him too is we'll see what this coaching group on offense, especially Gillespie and Sheridan and Debor, what direction they want to head. Because let's say AK goes ahead and he commits, right? And from there, we start to say, okay, what do we want to stick with what we have? We've kind of seen it with other commits and then decommitments. It's more so okay, hey, if we run into this position, we're going to be honest with you and straight up with you. And that happens in college football. I'm saying we might be moving this route. We're going to give you an opportunity to go do what you want to do and explore some other options, and if that's the case, that's the case. But I don't feel like they'll do that necessarily with Turbo. I think they'll try to keep him. I think they would like to see him in this class because I think those two really complement each other really well. So it'd be great. Again, there's rumors, right? It's rumors, it's talk. Obviously, maybe some insiders have some information, but that we'll just see what happens as the season rolls on. I think too, when the season does come, seeing multiple running backs getting carries is going to be a big deal too. So
yeah, and that's one of the things that whenever Debor was hired, right, I started really looking at it because I already knew who Debor was, right? Like Truth, frightening Truth in here. Happy you're in here, Truth. Good to see you. And to answer your question, Truth, about the, I think you asked that after, and the verbiage I used, when I thought back to it, I was like, oh yeah, that was probably not clear on my part. Truth asked, wait, is the year the COVID runs out? Is this the year the COVID extensions run out, or are we back to fifth-year seniors being an anomaly? Isn't Dylan Gabriel on his 87th year? I'm pretty sure he could be my grandfather. Well, and I think he said that and right after I said Jam Miller could exercise another year. When I said that, I meant in terms of he's a junior this year. And he'll be a senior next year. So that's what I meant in terms of exercise, Truth. But you're 100% right, Jake. Whenever Debor was first hired, I remember really I already knew who he was. And that's why I first referenced Truth, right? It's because Truth has been over at the stream watching forever. And he knows that Monday nights after the weekend of football, Jance and I would come on here and be like, are y'all watching Washington and Michael Penix? And it wasn't as much this past season. I must be honest. It wasn't as much this past season, but the season before, the first year he was at Washington, it was every Monday for sure. Every other Monday, Jance and I were like, are y'all watching Washington? This is so wild to watch. And I threw it an absolute fit whenever Penix wasn't invited to New York for the Heisman. I threw a fit that season. But what are you going to do? Right. So, but one of the things I really started looking at, Jake, was okay, well, you say that you modify your scheme to your players. How true is that? And we looked at the rushing breakdown. And whenever he had a guy that he felt okay, well, you're someone I can have carry this offense, that guy got the lion's share of the carries. Whenever he didn't have that, he was really working in a running back by committee. Now, the interesting thing is I think he has both now. I think any one of these guys, whether that's Richard Young, whether that's Justice Haynes, whether that's Jam Miller, could be a guy to where you're hey, shoulder the offense. You're going to get the lion's share. I think they all have the ability. But because you have all of them, you don't have to do that, right? Like, and I think that's where we're going to see it get really, really interesting. Before we dive into Tai Haywood, look, we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the world of NIL and the part it can play in college football. I think that relationships are still king, right? Because I think that while NIL is new, a little bit of the new has worn off, right? Like it's not the super flashy thing anymore. It still is, but not like when it was first there, where like you're hearing about incredible deals. They're still happening. But I think we're at a point now where relationships, it's like the bell curve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think we're kind of on the trick down. What I mean when I say that is I think relationships are really starting to rise to the forefront again. So I wanted to talk about this comment before we got into Tai Haywood, because I love this question, Marcus, saying, what are y'all's thoughts on Oregon's unlimited NIL? It looks like Oregon is saying, take this checkbook and bring us a national championship trophy. Hot take. If you can do it, do it. Right? Like, this is the thing, because I know as an Alabama fan, it's like, oh, well, darn, we don't have Nike money, so like, why should they be able to do it? But I'm going to tell you like this. If Phil Knight was an Alabama alum and all of that was in Tuscaloosa, you bet your sweet Bippy I'd be sitting here. And if Phil Knight said that about Bama, I'd be like, yeah, this is what you all wanted. Here we are, right? Like,
seriously.
So I can't have my cake and eat it too, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Now, Marcus, even though that definitely gives them an advantage, here's the flip side of that, man. Are you going to be able to manage the culture that you could create? Right? Because you are going to create, or at least in theory, I think talking in absolutes is irresponsible. So let me walk that back, and I apologize, because I do believe that's irresponsible. For all I know, I'm not in the building. Lanning could have an impeccable culture up there. So it's irresponsible for me to talk in absolutes. But from the outside looking in, one of the things I've always questioned is, are you going to be able, and not Lanning, this is you, when I say you, all of college football, how do you manage the culture whenever you're just like opening blank checks? Is that going to become a problem?
Yeah.
Are you, like, how is that going to work? If you can manage it, and who knows? We might look in 4 years, it not have mattered anything. Like, they might have an impeccable culture, right? Maybe that was just all of the factors were also there and the NIL was the cherry on top. Who knows? But that's only step one. Step two is going out and winning the games, right? And Oregon is now in a position in the Big Ten where they have a tough year.
Yeah.
Because listen, home or take, I think the SEC is better than the Big Ten. I said it. But that being said, the Big Ten isn't a cakewalk, right? Like, you're going to have some tough games. Now, much like I argue for Texas and Oklahoma, that I think that in the past 2 to 3 years, both Texas and Oklahoma have really been building towards a style of football, towards a culture that is far more SEC akin than it is Big 12 akin. Oregon's kind of the same way, right? Like, when I look at Oregon as opposed to USC, I think USC, if they get everything going, they could get successful. I hope they do. I think college football is better when USC is good, much like I think college football is better when Miami is good. But Oregon, to me, like, if you're asking me day dot, who's more Big Ten ready, Oregon or USC? Oregon. Defensive-minded, and part of that's not fair to the programs. One's a defense led by a defensive-minded guy. And Jake, I think you and I have talked about this. I'm biased towards defensive-minded players, but I've rambled enough. I want to get a player's perspective on this, and I apologize for the incoherent rambling. There were just a lot of thoughts that were all coming out at once.
I love it.
Talk to me about your perspective on this before we jump into all the latest recruiting news.
Yeah, no, with Oregon, interesting one, right? Because, yeah, of course, NIL plays a part of it. NIL is a part of today. You have to accept it for what it is, right? Like, you know, there's things we control, there's things we don't control. So who honestly, at this point, who cares, right? Because we can't control it. So if we sit there and we're like, oh man, this team's getting these people because of NIL, okay. That maybe it's part of it. I still think though, from a player standpoint, you got to enjoy where you're going. You know what I mean? You got to be like, I can be here. Like I can be part of this team, right? Antoine, what's up, man? And you have to enjoy the coaches you're going to play for. Like money, it's interesting, right? Because for those of us who are not being recruited or not in the inner circle of a recruit being offered money, recruiting in general, you even go back in the day and look at it. There's still areas where you could go in and be like, man, this has cooler stuff, or you get cooler stuff here. That's part of it. And it's the same kind of idea with NIL is, okay, I get more money here, but like future wise, what fits me, right? Because we can get to a point where I'm making enough that I'm good. It helps my family, it helps me. It's essential of what I have. I'm good, but where do I really enjoy? And I think a lot of players are still considering that aspect of like, where do I enjoy? I'm going to be honest. Yeah, Oregon might have some Nike NIL, but I don't think that's all of it at all, especially Oregon. Oregon's they've always done a good job in recruiting. I mean, shoot, I look back, it's funny. I was listening the other day. I was thinking about like, okay, what were my top 5 schools back in the day when I was going through the recruiting process? Oregon was one of them, right? Florida, Notre Dame, Washington, right? And from there, I look in Michigan, and I look back at those, and I say, man, like Oregon still had really cool things going on during that time frame. And now you look at what they've done coaching staff wise, but I also think they have a guy there who Marshall Malco, I think his name is, but he's like their general manager or chief of staff, as they call him. But you look at his background, he's at Boise State under Chris Peterson, goes off and does some stuff. I mean, he works at Alabama under Nick Saban, helps kind of like streamline the recruiting process there, and does a really good job at identifying talent. He wasn't their everything, but he was part of it, right? Then he goes to Georgia. In the 5 years he's at Georgia, they have top 5 recruiting classes. 2 of the years they have number 1 recruiting classes. Then he goes to Texas A&M. His 2 years there, they have a top 10, I think, and then they have the number 1 recruiting class. And then immediately he leaves. 2022 season would have been then. He's then goes to Oregon. And then at Oregon, that's when he starts to see these recruiting classes continuing to build and build and build. And I think Dan Lanning's doing a good job. I do think he's a player's coach. Like, he has the energy, the way he goes about it. He's the guys he has on staff. You and me, Ty, have talked about some of these guys that they're on staff. These guys are like top recruiters nationally.
Well, and I mean, they really samples.
Yeah, like again, a top recruiter. 30 under 30, right? He's one of them. So Tosh Lapoy, top recruiter. He's at Alabama for a while, right? We look at and forgive me, I don't remember the receivers coach right now. But then the DB coach, that's one guy, and man, I had the list. I don't know what I did with it. But the DB coach came from
Junior Adams. Well, that's that's
wide receivers coach. But the DB coach, I want to say, is Hamlin or Hampton. But he came from that team Tulane, who beat USC, right? In the bowl game, I think it was.
Chris Hampton. Yep.
Chris Hampton, yeah. Dude, that DB coach is the real deal. The real deal. And he's a co-defensive coordinator. So
oh my gosh, I know exactly who he is now. Yeah, yes. Yeah, that's a monster hire.
So why are they getting like they are in the running for DJ Pickett, right? They are in the running for gosh dang it, I cannot believe I'm forgetting the names of these 2 dudes. One of them's the baseball player,
Justin Williams.
Yes, okay. And then there's another one.
No, Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams.
It's Jonah, right? And then there's another one who's about to commit too, and he's been like crystal balled to he's like, Trey McNutt. right? So that's three. You have the number one corner and two of the top safeties in the nation, 1 and 2, safety wise in the nation. And now there's rumor that you might get offered. Your DB class, that would be the best DB class, one of the best DB classes I've ever seen besides what Bama got this last year in 2024.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but seriously, that would be one studly DB class. They already have another guy who's on there. He's a 4-star cornerback. He's an athlete, but he's listed as a cornerback. So, I mean, man, I'll tell you what, they're doing stuff. And that was one area. You want to know why they're putting that time in? Because they got big guys up front. And they've got some of the recruits. But one area that you look at Oregon where they have been weakest at and they have needed the help has been in their secondary. And in order to compete defensively with the defense they run, because they run a 3-3-5, 4-2-5 hybrid, like everyone else, they need the secondary to compete, especially in the big, right? Because they need physical guys. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But I don't think it's all NIL. I think it plays a part, but I don't think it's all of it.
Yeah, I think it's a piece, right? I mean, and like I said, if you got it,
dude,
use it. Because I know if Bama had Phil Knight and Nike, I'd be sitting over here cheering to the hills. Oh gosh, here we go again. I'd be cheering to the hills for Bama to be using that. Eric D saying Naeem offered will be at Bama. I stand on that. I certainly hope. I kind of gave a spiel whenever, there was that whole Twitter interaction, and people were like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" And I was like, I mean, if the dad was like, talking about Ohio State's defensive back coach as opposed to Alabama's, and I was like, listen, that's perfectly fine, right? Like it doesn't bother me one way or the other. If I was you, like I would just say, hey, really hope that Alabama can do enough to show you that they're a great place for your son.
Yep.
Hope all the best for you and your son. Hope you enjoy your process, once in a lifetime opportunity, and an incredible athlete you have in terms of your son. So best of luck, right? Like that's the approach that I would take, because then it's like sitting there and it's like, oh, and I know that the fans don't win recruiting battles.
Yeah.
But now more than ever, ladies and gentlemen, and this just isn't about Alabama. I'm about to make a larger point, right? Because we have fans from all over in here. These parents, these kitchen people's takes. And like I said, it might not dismiss your opportunity for a player, but it can't hurt just being like, hey, wish you the best.
Yeah.
Right? Wish you the best. Enjoy the process. Hope Bama can change your mind. Hope Bama can show you this year that they got someone with Coach Linguist, that he's going to make it work. But in the case that they don't, all the best. Love to have you part of the club. Like that's not going to do anything, but like that can't possibly hurt. One of the things that is interesting to me, Eric, is that apparently Mo Linguist coached his cousin, Coach Naeem Offord's cousin at Buffalo. Right? So that's the connection right there. So going to be really interesting to see. Going to be very interesting to see. But I'll tell you what's super interesting, Jake, is the weekend that Alabama had, because oh my, two incredible wins this weekend for Alabama. We started off in the wide receiver room. Caleb Cunningham. Right, I said he was 6'1" in my video, and a lot of people are telling me he's 6'3". 247 has him at 6'1", on 3 at 6'2", so he's 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". Big body wide receiver with a ton of athleticism, standout basketball player as well. In fact, if I look at 24/7 Sports, isn't he the number 12 player in the nation?
For basketball or for
just for football?
Oh shoot, I gotta have to look. Take a peek.
I'm on right now. He is. Well, if it wants to not slow up on me as I'm waiting for, he is the number 13. I was off by one. Okay, I apologize.
Okay. Yeah.
He's number 13 nationally per the composite. Number 2 wide receiver in the nation, only behind Decorian Moore, who is an absolute monster. I mean, that
Yeah.
kid's incredible. And he's the number 1 player in the state of Mississippi. This gives Alabama yet another top wide receiver in the class. I think Lotsier Brooks is going to continue rising up the boards. I think Lotsier Brooks might be the sleeper in terms of he was an unranked 3-star. And now he's, I think, top 100 pretty much everywhere. If you guys haven't had an opportunity to check out Lotsier Brooks, if you're an Alabama fan, you're going to love that he is in your wide receiver room in your recruiting class. If you're not an Alabama fan, you're going to dread just trying to go up against him. And truth, hey, Texas got a big win in Nick Townsend. We're going to break that one down because he's a phenomenal player. Really wanted him in this Alabama class. I really wanted 2 tight ends personally. But Townsend to Texas, huge win. Sark's going to make him look really, really good. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, he's a good pickup for them.
Yeah, great pickup, right? And that Texas offense is going to be so much fun to watch. Jake, talk to me about Caleb Cunningham.
Yeah, just big body wide receiver. He has a lot of, it's interesting because a lot of people look at different aspects of the wide receiver and what type of wide receiver they'll utilize or how they'll be utilized in an offense. Caleb's interesting because you can utilize him just about anywhere. He has explosiveness off the line, but he's also very fluid in his motion. So even though he doesn't look like he's moving fast, right, he's just very smooth in his transitioning, right, from coming out of the blocks into his route, into his first move to his second move. And then on top of that, I think what's interesting with him is he's so, they call it like bouncy, right? Like the guy just feels like you can, like a bouncy ball, you hit on the floor and boom, shoots back up, right? He has that kind of twitch in his feet when he jumps, right? Like he's very bouncy. He's one of those guys too. After he makes the catch, he does a very good job of making plays in the open field and continuing to get yards after the catch. So he does play in a league that he kind of is undersized a little bit. You can see that when he walks on the field. Like he is by far the biggest dude.
You mean the league is undersized relative to him?
Yeah, gotcha, 100%. Hopefully that's what I said. If I didn't say that, my bad. But yeah, like the league in general is undersized. Like you look at him, and he's physically just way bigger than anyone else really that he matches up against. I don't know if there's really any competition for him in that league, matchup wise. And I think that goes to show, like with his ability to he out muscles, out jumps, out runs, just about everybody. One thing that impresses me the most about him, though, is his hand strength is really impressive. Another guy who had this type of hand strength that I saw really make progress. Now, Caleb's where he was at to where Caleb's at now. Caleb's far, above where he would have been at. But Jalen Polk in this last season at Washington, if you watch the way he caught the ball, he was very much a hands. Some guys like to body it. They feel better about just catching with their body. Other guys do a really good job no matter what route they run. They're very much like hands first. They have that strong hands. You look at Caleb, he has extremely strong hands. Like he sees that ball and we've all seen that one hand grab. Like he just grabs it. It's not even like letting it flow into the pocket. He just snatches it, right? So this guy, like, he's ready, and he's going to be really fun to watch. He's going to do great in this offense too, because again, he's very versatile. You can put him just about anywhere.
Yeah, and I just love the way that this wide receiver staff is going about recruiting the wide receiver position, because one of the things I've talked about for so long is that if you can capitalize on stylistic differences within the wide receiver room, you're making it more difficult for a defense, because now they have to account, okay, well, you have some guy who is 6'3", who has got stickums on the gloves, right? Like who just, if the ball touches his hands, he's going to catch it. He's physical. Then you have a route assassin in Ryan Williams, right?
Gosh,
who can run genuinely every route in the route tree. His route running, he should be a senior in high school right now. His route running as a junior was as advanced as I've seen for a player maybe ever. Granted, I haven't been doing this for super long, so take that for what it is, right? Like this is year 3 for me. But his route running was superb. And his understanding of how to attack defensive backs as a sophomore, as a junior, getting them to flip their head and then attacking the back shoulder. I mean, he was displaying some stuff that you see guys really start honing down their first year of college, second year of college. Ryan Williams was doing this as a sophomore, as a junior. Plus, you couple that with a 10.49 100-meter dash as a sophomore.
Yeah.
And then you have Lotzier Brooks, who it's just like, give me the ball and nobody can catch me. And
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, that's fair. What did he clock? Like 22 miles per hour?
Yeah.
Something insane, right? So, yeah, I mean, this wide receiver room and Coach Shepard is just doing an unbelievable job. Now, this is a point I made in the video that I did, Jake, where it's like, okay, it's almost like the reverse situation is with Saban, because Saban was a college defensive back who was a defensive back wizard. Guys wanted to get coached by him as we introduced the one, the only, Coach Carl Taylor. Coach, how you doing?
I'm all right about yourself.
No, can't complain. Better now that you're here.
What's up, Coach Carl? How you doing, man?
I'm good. What's up?
Coach, we're talking right now about the presence of stylistic differences within a wide receiver room. And listen, Bama's wide receiver room has been really good for a long time. But it almost looked like, and as much as I love the talent that's currently in the room, it almost looked like you had clones, right? What I mean when I say that is you had a bunch of guys who were all very skilled, but they all more or less did the same thing, right? And what I mean, like you had Kobe Prentice, you had Burton, you had all of these guys who were just technical wide receivers. But then you got a Jalen Hale, and I think he made his presence felt because he was like, okay, well, you have all these technical guys. You put me at X or Z, I'm going to go up and get it, right? Like, I'm a physical guy with that top-end speed, and that stylistic difference was a real asset to the room. And now when you look at the way Coach Kalen Debor is recruiting, where they move Odom out to wide receiver, where they get a Caleb Cunningham, where they're after a Khalil Lockett, where they're after a Lotzier Brooks, a Derek Meadows. And then we look at what they had at Washington. It looks like they're employing this kind of sense of stylistic differences within the wide receiver room to keep a defense honest. What do you think about that from a coach's perspective?
The best part about coaches, man, is this: like, if you run the X, Y's, and you my bad.
Yeah, you're good now.
You want your X to be one type of receiver. You want your Y's to be different.
I think it's I don't know if it's working, Coach. I think something, I don't know if your mic turned off or what happened.
Listen, it wouldn't be a live show if something
That's right.
happened, right? Yeah, we can hear you
better.
there.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
there we go.
Oh, okay, my bad. I say usually with offenses, man, you want your X's to be your big, linky, fast-paced guys that speedy, that can go up and get the ball, kind of like possession receiver with a lot of speed. Then you got your slot guys, and then you got your Z's on the outside, right? So you want your two outside guys to be different. You know, one can be super fast, take the top off the ball. One can be a possession guy, and then put your speedy guys in your slots. In the way Caleb Debor is recruiting, he recruiting possession guys, speed guys, quick over the middle slot guys. So he opened the field up, big body tight ends. There's nothing different from the way he did in Washington and the way Oregon runs offense. Like Oregon runs the same different type sets that Caleb Debor doing. When you look at Oregon offense, you got Trayshawn Hogan. He come from Alabama. He's a possession guy. We tried to use him as a number one threat. He wasn't a number one threat. He's just a big body possession guy. So they're using him as a possession guy. And then you have your other guy to take the top off the ball. Then once Trayshawn Holden come out of the game, you got another guy come in behind him. That's the possession receiver. So they have a bunch of possession receiver and a bunch of guys that can take the top off the ball and some quick in and out guys in the slot, kind of like some Wes Records types. That you put them on linebackers and safeties, we can beat you in and out of the breaks faster than your linebackers and your safety can cut. So that's the way Caleb Borden is building this thing at Alabama. So now you have to play honest with Alabama. You're going to play a lot of zone, or you're going to have to try to blitz a lot. And if you blitz them, a slot guy's going to kill you. You play in zone, we can take your top off with our speedy, fast receiver. And if you're coming at us like, excuse me, like zone blitzes, now we got our big body possession guys, our tight ends and our big receivers that can cut across the middle, boom, catch a ball, take a hit, and still get the first down. And we can run the ball all at the same time. So the way they running offense is gonna be running offense in Alabama, gonna be scary. That's why I like playing NCAA with Alabama, because I can do every single thing I'm telling you. I can do it all in the NCAA game with Alabama.
Coach, I saw you in the comments. Xavier Brown is that dude in that game, isn't he?
Xavier Brown's beast, man.
He's hey, I think they're trying to tell everybody something, right? Like, you test Xavier Brown, it's not going to go well. And I'm a big Damani fan, but right now,
the money jacket get burned on that game.
How he runs a 10-2-5.
But it's like he get burned a lot. According to the way the ESPN got him, the way they got him playing, they don't have him with his speed turned up, and then they don't have a football IQ very well. So if you playing with the money jacket, you actually have to play with the money jacket. So if ball pass deep, you have to mess zero triangle. You mess zero to change the player while it's in the air, and then mess triangle for him to jump to actually play the ball. So people out there listening, if you're playing football and you wonder why you're getting beat over the top because you're not messing zero and triangle, you switch your the switch from automatic to manual to play your DB. So you switch from zero to triangle, match zero, match triangle. He's gonna jump and then he'll play the ball.
Yeah, Goof says, I bet Ty's going. Listen, Goof, I'm gonna tell you right now, Jalen Milroe is an absolute cheat code in that game, right? Like, one, he's very good at, like, if they blitz and you're trying to, like, if your eyes are downfield, you're not watching the blitz, and then he gets hit, he's very good at bouncing off that first guy and then, like, still being good. His throw on the run is insane. And I'll tell you one of my favorite things, and it almost feels like cheating, Coach, to do this. Jake, and I don't what was the last time you played a Madden or NCAA, Jake? Because this is, I say new, but it's probably been in there for like 6 or 7 years now.
Madden. I had the last Madden, so I would have played that. Yeah, for sure.
So one of the things when you get a mobile quarterback like Jalen, you're outside the pocket floating. And like maybe I have Justice Haynes as just like my security blanket, because anytime I'm passing, I like to have a security blanket type guy, especially with a mobile quarterback. So you float out the pocket and Justice Haynes is right there in the flat. You flick up the stick and tell him, hey, go. And two things are going to happen. Either A, the linebacker or cornerback who is just on Justice Haynes is going to try and attack Jalen Milroe, so you can't run. You just pop it right over his head to Justice Haynes. Or B, they're going to turn around and start running with Haynes. And if you have Milroe, you have an alley now. And you just take – I mean, it feels like cheating whenever you do that. Like I don't know what it's called, but you can basically make them change their routes on the fly. It's the receiver that's closest to you. When you go to take off and you start doing that, you get to move defenders out the way. And when you have a Jalen Milroe, my goodness, that feels like cheating. I feel bad doing it every time because I'm like, this shouldn't be this easy, right? This shouldn't be this good. Christopher saying people use that with Lamar Jackson. I can imagine, right? Now, I did want to hit this comment right here before we really start diving into Tai Haywood. Truth says Townsend is being hyped as being potentially better than JT Sanders by our guys. Truth is a big Texas fan. Coach Carl Taylor friend of the show, has been a supporter of the show forever. Love Frightening Truth around here. We've got great Texas fans, great USC fans, great OU fans, of course, great Alabama fans. But guys just love talking college football. And Truth is saying, he's bigger and faster. Truth, it's going to be hard for me to give that to anybody because you know how high I was, Truth, on Jatavius Sanders. I mean, I screamed whenever he got to Texas. I don't know whether they're going to use him as an edge or as a tight end. But either way, they have a problem child at 40 acres that is going to be a nightmare to deal with. He was a nightmare tight end to deal with. There's actually the clip that Nino and Steven kept posting of me kind of arguing with Chris Griffin of the Horns Down podcast, friend of the show. Love Chris.
Love Chris.
He was saying, I'm not worried about Jatavius Sanders. And I was like, Chris, you know not what you speak. That kid's a monster.
Yeah.
So you seen how that kid built?
So I'm in Denton, right where he played high school. I don't know if you ever saw those clips, Coach, wherever he was in the back of the end zone and he would just one hand just snatch the ball. I was at 2 of them in the back of the end zone whenever he did that. I talked to him before the state championship game. Or no, maybe it was briefly. I mean, when I say talk to him, that's a pretty liberal use of the phrase. We had a 5-second interaction, maybe 10-second interaction, right? When I was interning with David Campbell's.
Okay.
But Coach, you're right. I stood next to him and I've never seen anybody built like Sanders. It's different. Jake, he's huge.
Really?
Like,
I mean, he looks big. He looks long.
Well, it's not just that, man. It's like a tree. Like the dude is
just wide.
Huge.
He's solid. Man, the dude came to Tuscaloosa. They was down there warming up, and they were throwing the ball to him in the back of the end zone. I looked down. The kid had no shirt on. I was like, what the hell we got ourselves into?
Yeah, I'm telling you, from being at the Denton Ryan games, I'd always sit there and I'd be like, I've never seen anybody built like this. Because if you looked at the lower body, Jake, you'd think he was a defensive lineman. Like, that's how big he is in the lower body. But then it goes straight up. And then he moves really well. That being said, Truth, I love Townsend. He and Edwards were my 2 favorite tight ends in this class, right? So we split the difference. We got Edwards, y'all got Townsend. I don't think either. It's one of those situations where your first pick of the NFL draft is Patrick Mahomes. The second is, I don't keep up with the NFL, so Lamar, right? And we flip a coin, and maybe you get heads and I get tails. Heads picks first, but we're both walking away like, right? Like we got it, dude.
Both pumped. Yeah. Both happy.
Yeah, no, those are great. Like between those 2 guys, those are 2 really good tight ends. I mean, even Olish was good too.
Townsend going to be great in Sarkisian's system, but JT, I don't know. That's going to be hard because that dude's such a freak. He can break tackles, and it was like safety was afraid to even hit him. Like they would just try to hold on to him and wait for help. Like they was afraid to even tackle that kid. I watched it at Alabama, literally sitting in the stand like, "Are you gonna hit him?" And see Malachi Moore just run past him and reach for him.
Jake, I'm telling you, if you ever get the opportunity, if he's playing at a game, in the pros near you, go.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
And get there early and get his. It doesn't make sense when you see how he's built. Like, I'm so glad Coach Carl has, because I've often said the same thing, Coach Carl. I stood next to him. There's a clip whenever they played in the state championship in 2021, right? The 2020 season, the COVID year. You can actually see me in the highlights standing at the back of the end zone.
That's awesome.
For a lot of those state championship games. The Quinn Ewers game, wherever he played. Oh, God, I don't know why the kid's name escapes me. The quarterback who's now at Clemson. He and Quinn Ewers dueled it out. Yep, Cade Klubnik. Thank you very much, Coach. He and Quinn dueled it out for the state championship at Texas. I was at the back of the end zone. I watched the Denton Ryan game. And I remember JT Sanders walking right by me. And I was thinking to myself, like, I've never in my life. And granted, Coach, I'm in North Texas. So, like, if I toss a football right now, there's liable to be 3 or 4 top 100 players in the nation that could catch it just within a throwing distance of where I'm sitting. I've never seen anybody built like him. I was like, this doesn't make sense. But yeah, Truth, y'all got a good one. Eric saying on the Georgia board, there's talk of Naeem Offord decommitting from Ohio State. Check it out. He very well could. Could, Eric.
He's actually gonna decommit. It's in the process. I got family members in Birmingham. He's planning on decommitting. Right now he's according to my grandpa, he's looking at Auburn. Like Auburn is high on his radar right now. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Would be good for Auburn, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A good win for them. Would be terrible for me to admit, but that's what we do here on this show. But I will soften the blow for all the Bama fans in here, because Caleb Cunningham was not the only 5-star Alabama got this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We just got done talking. You see how I did this segue, Coach? People think that I'm just ranting about different topics. No. I've webbed this together. We just got done talking about Jatavius Sanders, former 5-star from Denton Ryan High School in Denton, Texas. Well, wouldn't you know it, Alabama just gets a massive win from Denton Ryan High School in Denton, Texas, for 5-star offensive tackle, the number 2 offensive tackle in the nation, Tai Haywood. Coach Taylor, I'm going to start with you. Talk to us about Tai Haywood. What stands out? What do you like about this offensive line recruiting that we're seeing from Debor, Coach Cap? And just give me the roundabout.
Well, Tai Haywood, man, what I like about Tai Haywood, because most of the film I've seen on Tai is that he's like a bulldozer, man. Everybody gets in front of him and seems to me he pancakes them. It's like every time I see him on field, he pancaking somebody's kid. It's kind of seemed unfair for him to be in Texas pancaking kids. So Tai
especially
Haywood
Texas 6A.
Yeah. And that's right. Texas 6A, he pancaking kids like monster. I don't think he gave up a sack on. He might have given up a sack, but on his highlights, you don't see no one getting nowhere near the quarterback. And every time you see somebody, he's just molding over them. It's like it's unfair. So if you bringing that type of beast, like Zachary says in the comment, he's bringing that type of beast to Tuscaloosa, and you putting them in the mix next year, which we're gonna have an issue anyway with Jaden Roberts at that tackle, right tackle. So I'm thinking he comes in next year, start right off the bat because he's a molar, and then that's gonna be a position to need. We're gonna have to have a molar at that right tackle with Kalen Proctor going into his junior year, and Wickham Formsby could be that guy, but I'm quite sure that if Tai Haywood decided he was coming out of Alabama, that's going to be his spot off the rip. They promising him first bids at that spot, or he's the only reason why he probably coming, because other than that, he can walk in and start at Oklahoma. So they're giving him a shot fresh off the top. And the rest of this offensive line class, they're building it specifically for the schemes that they run. And Tai Haywood is kind of like icing on the cake. That's the best piece of the puzzle. So 2 years from now, Tai Haywood's your left tackle. Yeah, man. Depends on 2 years from now. You're thinking that big pilot Keelan. That'd be Keelan Russell, starting quarterback most likely. And that's his blind side. So yeah, you're looking really good.
Truth, the Texas fan says, damn it, Ty, isn't your class filled yet? When are you guys done? What the hell? Man, the rest of us can get some. Hey, I'm telling you, Truth, and I've said this before, and I'm remaining bullish on it. I think Texas is going to be just fine, man, right? Like,
Texas,
Texas is going to be
hadn't even got started yet.
Yeah, y'all are going to be just fine. Like, I'm not worried about y'all getting a top 10 class. Top 5 is going to be very interesting, but also it's like if y'all have a good year, and I don't even think that you have to be winning the SEC. You just gotta prove that, like, hey, we can play in this league, right? Like, what if Texas loses 2 games and they're very close losses, very good games, where we look at the end of the year and we were like, man, what a treat all college football fans got in that game. Came down to the wire. Both teams played great. Like, that's not all losses are created equal. I've always said that. I've gotten some pushback for saying that, but it's one thing losing to New Mexico State in your home stadium. It's another thing for Alabama to beat you on 4th and 31 in your own stadium, right? 2 losses. Now, granted, the 4th and 31 thing does really skew this argument, doesn't it? Like, to lose on 4th and 31, that doesn't drive home the point. Imagine that you lost just off of a regular, not that. Losing to New Mexico State is much more meme-worthy than losing to Alabama, right? That's my main point here.
True.
I think Texas will be just fine. Jake, I want to talk to you about Tai Haywood. I want to talk to you about this offensive line class because you have been bullish on what Kalen Debor is going to do, on what Coach Cap is going to do. And I must admit, I won't call myself a doubter. I think that's strong. But I was very much approaching this like the scientific method, right? Where I almost needed to see it before I was ready to breathe. But every time I talk to you, I get closer and closer to exhaling that breath. Talk to us about Tai Haywood, how he fits into this offensive scheme with what they want to do and the offensive line recruiting as a whole.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, right? With Tai is he's versatile, he's strong, he can be utilized whether it's left or right tackle. I mean, the one thing you look in general at this entire offensive line class is they're all very versatile. They're all athletes, right? We've talked about that a lot. One thing we're starting to see nationwide is you really look for the longest time, we always saw a lot of size, but I have also seen, thanks Terry, I appreciate that, man. One of the things I've also seen though is a lot of athleticism. Like you look at these guys, man, and they can move. You know, Jackson Lloyd is impressive as can be, right? Another guy we look at from a tackle standpoint. You look at each one of these dudes. Michael DeBose has size, but he can move, right? Michael DeBose is a big dude, but he can move, right? And then there's Michael Carroll. And Michael Carroll's like, you want to talk about an athlete.
Jeez.
I mean, from a big guy standpoint. And not only that, but extremely strong. And then you're right, like Coach Carl, you said it, man, is with Tai, one thing you see with him, with Haywood, is he physically outmans anyone he plays against. I mean, you can see it in the way he moves. It will be interesting to watch. But one thing I like about him is his footwork, right? And that tells me whenever you want to watch a big guy and want to know from an athlete standpoint, like what are these guys like? You watch their footwork, right? You want to see how they move because the feet will tell you a lot. What's up, Jimmy? Good to see you in here, man. The feet tell you a whole bunch about whether this guy, what he's going to be like, right? Does his feet fast? Does his feet slow? Like, how coordinated is he when he moves? Again, when we talk about his bend, like how flexible is the guy? That's another indicator, right? Because everyone's like, well, what's bend? Because bend is a unique word when we talk recruiting and you talk offensive line. And
get into that.
People don't get into it. Bend is simply this. It's simple flexibility, right? That's what it is. And the flexibility, whether it's that bend back, but also a flexibility to extend himself, right, into directions, but keep a solid base. Okay. Get his arms out, be strong with it, be able to move at angles that are different than what you would typically see. It's not just straight up, making sure they keep that thigh right between the leg. We call it, the crotch shot. That's why they put that leg back on the tackle too. If you guys notice the alignment, why the outside foot is back. So, and all these different things with bend, right? You want to see that because if they're flexible, again, it tells you their athleticism. Tai has that. So then we look at our offensive line right now. Okay, and why I believe this offensive line is going to be competing for a Joe Moore award. And you look at what these guys have done the offseason. You know, a lot of people gave me a hard time when me and Ty months ago did a video for Bama Online, right? We did a video when we were still there with Bama Online. We did a video on offensive line. One of the things I had
Bama
brought
football
up.
on YouTube. Bama
Yeah.
football
Oh, sorry. Yeah. My bad. Sorry, guys. My bad. Bama football on YouTube. My bad. Oops. My bad. Yeah, they Bama Online wouldn't let us do that. But here's what I'm saying is
We're not qualified.
We're not qualified right now. But I'll say for the video we did Bama football on YouTube, you had to be like a private subscriber, I think, to watch it. I don't know if you do now or if you don't. But we talked about this offensive line and what I had said what I would like to see from them. Sorry if there's a little delay in my video right now. Oh, there you go. And one of the things I said is I think these guys, not from standpoint of like they're overweight, but like lose weight to feel better so they can move and have the flexibility and the athleticism that feels best to them in the weight they feel best at to compete and still have physicality and violence, but at the same time still have athleticism and movement. So what happened during this offseason? Everyone's like, no, their size is fine. They just need to get better. Okay, that's a great explanation. That doesn't work. Sorry, man. So let me tell you this is what happened during this whole offseason that everyone talked about. Boom. They talked about size. They talked about bringing them down. Each of the players said, man, I feel so much better being fit, being strong. Go look at Jaden Roberts. The dude is ripped right. I mean, he's always been buff, but dude, he is jacked. Like on another level jacked. I only saw a few players like that I played with in college. One of the guys, Donnie Matiaki, he had an 8-pack at 315 pounds. I mean, he looked like a Greek god. But these are what these dudes are looking like now. So they're strong enough. They still have the body and the frame and in the muscle, right? The muscle keyword to be what they need to be. But now they feel lighter. They feel athletic. They feel like they can move, right? They feel like they're quick. That all plays in part in having a synchronized offensive line. And what you're going to see, you are going to see these guys on a whole nother level. You know, we look at Booker. We look at Parker. Parker looks great, by the way. I just saw pictures of him. They were talking about doing a workout with this dude who's phenomenal. God, what's that guy's name? Al Pooty Carson. You guys know who that is? The dude who
Krav Maga.
The Krav Maga, baby. You want to, and you know, he was a cop for 30 years. That's what we used to train in too. When I was a cop, was Krav Maga. So it's kind of crazy, man. It's fun. I used to do some training in that too. So it's a lot of fun to see that. And I know exactly what they're using it for. Exactly. And it's so funny. One of the things they talk about in Krav Maga, right, is surprise, speed, and violence of action. Okay, surprise is a hard one to get in football, but speed and violence of action, man, I'll tell you what, if you can combine those two, whoa, and this offensive line, feeling the way they're feeling, wanting to move the way they're moving, synchronized now as one, that's a dangerous combo. Dangerous combo. It's going to be fun to watch, man. I'm excited for these guys. I believe in them.
I'll tell you what else is exciting. This $5 donation from Kareem. Kareem, thank you for being here first and foremost. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for the $5. Thank you for your time. He says you have to be crazy to think you give a guy a Porsche and it performed like a Nissan and the coach being Debor in Alabama. Yeah, listen, I don't. Here's the thing, because and even I have made comments about like, oh, so many people. Oh, it's on the screen right now, Kareem. I've made comments before about so many people questioning Kalen DeBoer's ability to recruit. And if you were one of those people out there and you were saying, but Ty, I didn't doubt his ability to recruit. I just was curious. How is he going to be able to do it? That's fair. I don't blame you for that. I believed, but I don't blame you for being like, hey, Nick Saban's widely regarded as maybe the best recruiter, certainly in modern college football. I mean, Saban was a dog on the trail. They had to make rules to stop him, right? Y'all remember the satellite camp rules?
Yes, sir.
They did that to stop 2 guys in particular. But whenever we look, I don't blame anybody out there for asking the question, can he do it? Now, if your approach was he can't do it, okay, well, then those comments I'm making are for you. Respectfully, of course, respectfully. But I don't fault anybody for asking a question, right? I think questions are very natural. I think asking questions is as basic of a human interaction as we possibly have. I think that doubting and then waiting to see, fine. But for the people who said he can't, well, he's certainly proving that. Respect to Washington, Jake. Respect to the Huskies.
Yeah, all good.
Got a Husky sitting on the panel right now, so all
good,
due respect to Huskies. They don't have the resources that Alabama does. Now, that's a beautiful stadium. Oh, God. I mean, and Jake, you can speak to this. The campus is breathtaking at Washington.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on how many, drug users and homeless people you want to see during the day.
Okay, well, see, I'm just talking about the actual, building.
Yeah, no, the buildings are really pretty. Red Square is cool. Honestly, truthfully, that where it comes down to is like the actual athletic facilities down by the water are gorgeous. Like in Husky Stadium is really nice. It's funny because they're like, well, only seats like 72,000, between like 74 72,000. And but what's crazy, right, is that when you get down there, for the longest time, it had like the loudest stadium in college football. And that's because of the way the sound bounces off, right? The roof and all that stuff. But it's also in summertime, one of the best places to play, period, just because you got the water in the background with all the boats, right? And then the stadium's kind of it's a U shape, doesn't connect at the end. Then you got like the Husky dog zone. There's a lot of cool stuff about it. Granted, this year will be fun for me to visit some of the schools that I didn't while I was going through recruiting in the SEC. And so I'm going to make it down to Oklahoma for the Bama-Oklahoma game. That's going to be fun, right? And some of these other, probably up to Tennessee for that game. Maybe some games in Alabama. We'll see. It just all depends if I can get over there from Washington. We'll see what happens. That's a tough one. But, but still, Husky Stadium, it is very cool. It's a beautiful, and the campus in general is really pretty. It's just, just not when it is dumping down rain. That's the only part that sucks. Well,
see, I like the rain, but that's because I grew up in an area where, like, when you saw rain, you were almost scared. You were like, what is this foreign object falling from the sky? Right? Growing up in North Texas, we didn't even know how to spell rain for most of it. But at the end of the day, Kareem, like to your point, he's been given an incredibly unique platform. And Chicken says, seriously, Ty, it's like Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston to Angelina Jolie. Stop. The gods are good. Good. Yeah, and this is what I was saying the other day, Chicken, where whenever, I forget who it was, but they asked a good question. It was a good faith question. Believe you me, we can tell the difference between a good faith question and a bad faith question. And someone asked the question like, hey, what makes y'all so sure, right? Like, why are people so sure that Alabama's going to succeed? You just lost Saban. And I answered the question with a question, and I said, hey, when was the last time a team like Alabama that was right, like if we're talking about their teams at the top of the mountain in college football, Bama's one of those teams at the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. When was the last time one of those teams lost their head coach and then hired a head coach that was just in a national championship game?
I don't think that's happened, man.
I don't think it ever happened.
I don't think it has. And he says, Debor is that dude. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is, Chicken.
Debor.
To be fair, the person.
Funny. You call it Debor,
huh? To be fair, the person who asked me that question, Coach Carl, I don't know if you were in here. Whenever I asked them that back, they said, "That's a good point." I said, I didn't even think that's a very good point. I can't tell you the last time I saw that. That makes sense now. Why Bama is getting why you Bama fans are so excited. Like, that actually checks out. If I was in your shoes, I'd be the same way. So it's certainly a unique situation, right? What Alabama has.
But see,
Oh, yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm so excited is this, right? Nick Saban first year. What was his big time receiver crew? Julio Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Debor first big recruiting, Ryan Williams. And then his first recruiting cycle. Now we got Caleb Cunningham, right? Running back, we got Turbo Rogers currently. But with Nick Saban, it was Mark Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive line class, we had Barry Jones. Now we got Tai Haywood. Defensive line, we had defensive linebacker, we had Dante Hightower. Luke Mays. Just think about it.
Well, I mean,
you go back and just go down the line. We had a
I'd
safety,
like to add in I. Jackson.
We had
dude,
Bear.
dude.
We had
I. Jackson.
Robert Lister. We still had Mark Barron played safety. So we got two safeties in that class, a strong and a free safety, Mark Barron and Robert Lister. Both came from the same high school in Mobile. Well, Robert Lister came with Julio Jones, so both of them came out of the same area, Mobile area.
Mm-hmm.
And we still had Brandon Lewis, who was a straight defensive end on the left side, defensive end, strong side. So like, just put together the two classes, and you actually pay attention to the two classes. The Debor first recruiting class is better than Nick Saban's.
Oh, it's for sure. Like, it's kind of crazy too, man. Is like, and Ty, we kind of hit on this back and forth. We've talked about this, but you look at the offensive line. This offensive line class, as we keep going back to saying, Cap just needed a minute. Coach Cap needed a second to get in place.
Literally a second.
Literally.
That's like,
and now
Mississippi.
We're seeing like these guys, like this relationship built with these guys is phenomenal. What's interesting too, man, what Bama does a really good job of is they do a great job of really connecting with the parents. Like the coaching staff does a phenomenal job of connecting with the parents and making, like, you're not just recruiting players, you're recruiting their entire family, right? Because their families make impact. So that might be something said, though, to maybe why we've moved off other guys potentially, right? Through this process where people are like, well, I want this dude. But I want to be straight. Maybe it doesn't align really with what they're trying to build and who they're bringing in, right? Like I look at, one of my favorite people is Noah Carter's mom, Ebony, right? And Ebony is just like an amazing, awesome person, super cool. But then you look at Jaden Roberts' mom, right? You look at Rock Montgomery's mom. You look at Keelan Russell's mom. You look at Michael Carroll's parents. Everybody you see
Dawson
out there,
Merritt's
Dawson Merritt's dad. Like Dave's phenomenal. Dave is like, and that's not even with his football history, just as a person, as a dad, and what he's preaching. And his mom's the same way. His siblings are the same way. But everyone's families, they all align really, really well with like how they've raised their kids with a championship mindset, but also to be good people, right? One person I got to say, and I give a lot of props to, and she's kind of shouted us out, Ty, once in a while, was Kane Proctor's mom, right? Like Kane Proctor's mom's done a phenomenal job and really supporting her son through a process that was difficult. That's a difficult thing. You got to be patient with your kid in that process. You want the best for them. Maybe you see like what is going on. You see what route they're going, but you're going, okay, all I can do in this situation is support you. This might not be the best, but I'm going to support you and hope that you work through the problem, right? And there you go, Ebony. Ebony just hopped in here and sees. I didn't know you were tuning in. Love it, Ebony. But I was just bragging on you. But yeah, so we talk about the parents though, and we talk about the players. And one of the big things is, and I even look back in like a recruiting process for myself, and I think about like especially my mom, right? But in how impactful she was, and how much they spoke to her going through the process. with different schools. But like one thing Keelan Debor does is I think they really connect with these families. And again, they're all really aligned in what they want for their sons, but also who they want their sons to be as they continue to grow through their process and their careers. And I think that's huge with why you're also seeing a lot of that success. So.
Yeah, and also Caleb DeBoer understand the NIL process better than Nick Saban did, and he can adapt to it more too. See, Nick Saban was more in the fact of you earn what you get on the field. Now Caleb DeBoer understand that I have to give you a little incentive to get you here, and then once you get here and start playing, I can get you whatever you deserve. I can get more of what you deserve once you get here.
Yeah.
Courtney Morgan. And Coach, we've talked about this at length, that GM position.
Huge.
It's going to become a thing at every college out there. And maybe it already is in other words, but I truly mean a GM style position like what Courtney Morgan is doing. Remember this conversation right now. If you have a piece of paper next to you, write it down. And in 5 years, think back to this conversation. And look around college football and see how many of these teams are operating in a similar fashion to the way Courtney Morgan has Alabama operating. Now, granted, it's not just one person.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, if you took the best driver in the world, right, for those of you that are super into F1, super into Formula One, if you took Michael Schumacher, and you had him going up against the competition and he didn't have a good engine, he didn't have good tires, he would be severely hamstringed, whatever.
Yeah.
This isn't a grammar stream.
I get where you're going.
Right? Yeah. Don't correct me. Let me have this, damn it. Point being, it's a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so Courtney Morgan is doing a great job, but it takes a similar vision by everybody.
Yeah.
From the players to the staff to the head coach to the assistant coaches to the guys in the background, the guys and gals in the background that we don't give enough praise to, that do an incredible job, to the parents. It takes a level of buy-in from everybody. And once you have that, then, I mean, you're cooking with fire, right? Like you're off and running. And that's where I think it's so unique what Alabama is doing. Eric saying, I've already seen this GM position on other team. Yeah, Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a GM, and I just made a video the other day about a move he did that I find to be really fascinating. I actually think, hey, Oklahoma just made a move that we will be talking about other colleges doing, and that's OU getting and working with Jake Rosenberg, former Philadelphia Eagles executive and advisor to general manager Howie Roseman and his group, the Athletic Group, which is a consultation firm. OU's general manager in Oklahoma just signed a deal to work with them in terms of this changing landscape of revenue sharing. That's a great move. That's a great move. And Texas did something similar. They brought in someone. In truth, if you know the name escapes me, please drop it down below. But OU, like those are killer moves, like great moves for helping to prep yourself. I'd imagine Alabama is doing something very similar, whether it's in the works, whether it's already happening. But it's awesome. Thank you for being here, Ebony. He's doing really well. Speaking of Noah Carter, that's awesome to hear. Awesome to hear.
Bama been doing that for a long time with Nick Saban and Coach Belichick. So that's kind of something that they've been doing for the longest.
Yes, because Saban has all those NFL connections, right? But that's what I thought was so cool about what OU did, Coach Carl, is because Brent Venables, if people ask me, Tai, why are you so high on Oklahoma? Why are you so high on Texas? I'm not sitting here telling y'all, no, not Brandon Harris. Y'all brought in a financial whiz to help with the facilitation of the revenue sharing and the future of college football. Though the Brandon Harris move, I did like that one too. That was a good one as well. I'm so high on both of these guys. One, I think Coach Sark is an offensive wizard, right? Like when Coach Sark is in his bag, oh my word. And we just actually heard Coach Saban talk about it today, how he was like, I hated going up against Sark in the practices because that guy knows. And especially for the pattern match, right? And Jake, you can speak to this. What Sark does really attacks Saban's pattern match and puts you in an uncomfortable position, and he can do it over and over and over again. And that's what I mean when I just think he's an offensive guru. But when I look at a Brent Venables, and I'm not saying this doesn't go to Steve Sarkisian, I don't think that this is just Venables. I think that this applies to Sark as well. But Venables, to me, the reason why I think he's so interesting is because he's a first-year head coach. First year is not the first-time head coach, but he gets it. You know what I mean? Like he's someone I look at and I'm like, you get it. You understand like what's going on. You're very keyed in. I love the soul mission stuff they're doing, Jake. Whenever you said that Alabama's doing a great job recruiting the families, you hear a lot of the same things out at Oklahoma, that they're just building something that's so family oriented, so like, and people feel it. And it's one thing to hear it once, right? If we think of this as a graph, one dot can be meaningless. Multiple dots form a line. And when lines start forming, pay attention. Lines have formed, ladies and gentlemen. Lines have formed. Oklahoma's a top 10 class. I don't think it'll be long before Texas is there as well. Bama's the number one class in the nation, depending on where you look. If you look at 24/7 Sports, they might be number 2 in the nation, but go ahead and turn your attention to, that average player rank, where Alabama has the highest average player rank in the nation. One player. And the reason is because Steve Mbuma on 3 is already classified in the 25 class, where he isn't on 24/7 Sports, right? That's kind of a interesting talking point. But it's not even just that, Duck. You want me to be real harsh right now? You want to know one of the greatest things Brent Venables did? It's not just Bill. It's what Brent Venables learned from Dabo and what he didn't learn, right? Brent Venables learned a lot from Dabo. No, I'm not saying he didn't learn a lot from Bill. So please don't take this as that. I'm only adding to your point, Corporate Duck. It's that Brent Venables went to Clemson, learned what Dabo does to be so successful, but also learned what may be holding Dabo back from still being at the top of the mountain. And he's employed that. To be able to learn from guys at the top of their craft, but also point out where maybe it's a flaw. Maybe there's a flaw, right? That I think is super interesting. Well,
it's interesting you bring that up, because I think that if you want to hone in on your craft, you find people who do a really good job, right? And you learn from their knowledge. And I can remember several different examples, but one of the biggest things that I found always helped me was like, I would find those who were really, really good at something, right? I learned from their experience, everything I could take in from their experience, right? And then I would perfect it to my own, right? My own way of doing it. So I had a better understanding. And then from there, I could grow it into what I want, right? Everything in football and sports and a career and a job and life as a family, as a dad, as a husband, right? You can look at all these different things. I mean, and you look at what people have done in the past, or people who have done current, right? And you find the success, you want to attach yourself to that success, learn from that success, but then how do I make it my own, right? How do I take all this experience and utilize it to build my own knowledge to create something that I can then foster and continue to grow and almost make better than what they did, right? And you continue to work on that and build it and build it and build it. That's where I think BV like really excels, he has taken a process that is phenomenal, or was very successful, I should say, under like Dabo. He found the things that, like you're saying, I found the things that worked really, really well, created his own way of doing it, and now has implemented those things at Oklahoma and utilized things. So now it's taken his own like version of it, right? And will continue, and is continuing to build on it. And you will see again. Well, it's going to be interesting to watch, even under KD, like how these coaches do, right? Like how coaches do things as time goes on. Same with Kirby Smart's guys. I mean, same with Sarkisian's guys, Dan Lanning's guys. Because I'm going to tell you what, Will Stein, the offensive coordinator over there under Dan Lanning, this might be his last year. It might be his last year. Like the head coaching jobs pop up and Oregon has success. Will Stein is gone. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see, right? I mean, I don't know how many guys are in that position necessarily at LSU, because I don't know under Kelly, with Brian Kelly how often he does that. He seems to have that, but it would be interesting to see for sure, because I know there's some high expectations there at LSU. But with some of these other guys, you're gonna see that them mold off and bounce, and then we start to see like how they take a process and make it their own, right? So I mean, we're going to really see how KD's process really becomes something. Go watch the Seahawks offense this year. Because we're going to see if it works in the NFL, right? Which I think it's going to have a lot of success, but that's going to be an interesting one to see, right? So with Grubb.
Yeah, and Huff.
And Huff, yeah, 100%.
Good point on that. Mm-hmm. Georgia Chimps 2025, thank you for being here. Saying first-time viewer here and got a question. Should we pay attention to OU in Texas or just sweep them aside as mid-tier? Absolutely not. You shouldn't sweep them aside, Georgia. Listen, this is a stream right now where I will always, Georgia Champ, since you're your first-time viewer, I will always hold my bias right out for all to see. That way, if you disagree with me, you can know, okay, maybe I can understand a bit more where he's coming from because there's that level of bias. Now, that being said, Georgia, through college, through debate, I have been trained to be as unbiased as possible, and I do my best to remain unbiased. I am an Alabama fan. Coach Carl Taylor, Alabama fan. Jake, right beside me, right there. He played safety for the Washington Huskies and is an Alabama fan because of the consistent connections between Alabama and Washington. So I have no bearing to Texas or OU, right? None. But what I will say is this. Steve Sarkisian has been building at Texas. And you can say they always recruited well. You're correct. They always did, but they weren't cohesive recruiting classes. He's fixed that pretty well. And the culture is definitely moving in a better direction. And part of that is he assembled a great staff. Bo Davis on that defensive line. I was someone, Coach Carl, who you'll like this. Whenever that video of Bo Davis screaming on the bus, and then there were some people being like, I can't believe he would talk to the kids this way. And I'm like, they probably needed it. Right? Like, you're trying to fix a culture. You're not trying to fix one incident that's, like, removed. You're trying to completely remold a culture. Go at it. Right? Like, say the harsh truth. And he did. He said, I'm a winner. Everywhere I've gone, I've won. I'm not coming to be a loser. That's not happening. Truth is the Texas fan. They needed it. They needed it. Sark has really gone a long ways in redoing that culture. And then when we look at Oklahoma, if Lincoln Riley was still at the helm, sure, they would have kept Caleb. They would have probably had more wins than losses, but they would not be in the position that they are going into the SEC. What I mean when I say that, Lincoln didn't believe in a physical brand of football. Lincoln didn't believe in recruiting. Lincoln didn't believe in defense. Brent Venables believes in all three. He was hamstrung, had to completely change the culture, the mindset of the program. These are not two teams that you just need to disregard. These are two teams that no, Kareem's saying Texas and Oklahoma are going to figure out. Kareem, I will say this, they're SEC teams. I live in Texas. I grew up on the border of the Red River. Right? I could throw a football and hit Oklahoma. Right? I grew up right there. These are SEC teams. It means more to them. Now, they were in a conference that maybe didn't view everything like the SEC did. That wasn't OU and Texas's fault. To them, it means more. Like, that's why I've always been so excited about this move. They got two teams that are SEC teams. It means everything. You can't run into Oklahoma fans and tell me they aren't some of the most passionate fans that you'll ever experience. It means everything to them. Texas fans are a lot the same. So no, I would absolutely watch Georgia Championship 2025. I would absolutely watch, because the last time that two teams from the Big came to the SEC, it made the SEC better. That's when you saw the massive adjustment in defenses in the SEC. Mm-hmm. And them realizing, okay, we have to be able to cover this spread. It was good for him, right? That's where I think it's going to be good for the SEC. It's good for Oklahoma. It's good for Texas. Coach, I'll pass it to you on that note, and then to Jake.
Can't hear you, Ty.
Oh, go ahead, Coach Carl. You're up.
Oh yeah, man. Texas and Oklahoma. I'm with you, Ty, 100%. Texas is proven. I mean, Texas came in Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama, so they proven that they SEC teams. Oklahoma is the blue blood. Oklahoma built for the SEC. I mean, their offense, the defense always been very good, but the offense is stellar. No matter what league they play in, they always gonna have a stellar offense. And with Brett Venom at him, he's a defensive-minded coach, so they're going to be geared up, ready to play SEC football. Mm-hmm. Only difference is, the grind. It's just that weekly grind when you get into the SEC schedule, the meatball on the schedule. It's one power team after the next one. Only team you can really count as a gimme game in the SEC is Vandy. And depends on who you're playing. Vandy ain't really just a pushover type team, so you got to look at that portion of it. So, yeah, I think Texas and Oklahoma both are SEC teams, and they ready to grind. They ready to grind. I think Oklahoma will be prime as the biggest sleeper team this year. I think Oklahoma I think they probably go like 10-2. Honestly, it's gonna be a real sleeper type team because everybody's counting out the freshman. Well, the backup quarterback is freshman or sophomore year.
Yeah, he's going to be going into his sophomore year. Correct, Coach.
But, yeah, everybody going to be counting him out. And by the time he get into SEC play and probably like mid-season, the kid going to be stellar. I really see that kid being a stud. And even with me with Texas, everybody saying Quinn Ewers. Me personally, I watch Quinn Ewers. Once Quinn Ewers started making plays, he's phenomenal. But once he gets shaky and start turning the ball over, Quinn Ewers become injury prone. He get out of shape and start making some bad plays. He can't move the ball on the field. Next thing you know, he got an ankle injury or he twists his hip. And once he pulled that fake injury type deal and get Arch Manning that football, he probably won't ever play again in Texas because Arch Manning is prime and he's ready to play. And once you give a man in the football, you're never gonna get it back. It's just something about a man. It's just I don't know. Quarterback is in their DNA. So don't count Texas or Oklahoma out. If you want to count somebody out in the SEC, you start counting out the Floridas of the world. Count out Kentucky. Don't count out LSU. I'm telling you. I know LSU not looking good, but do not count out LSU. That's a different type of atmosphere. It's a tiger for a reason. And Tiger is one of the meanest cats in the jungle. So don't count out LSU.
Coach, but before they got to get that defense back before I refer to them as the Bayou Bengals. Right now, they're the Puddle Kittens.
Yeah, they the Bayou Pussy. I call them Bayou Putty Cats. But they gonna always be the Bayou Putty Cats. But do not count out LSU. I'm telling you. I'm telling you now. I done watched it. Those Putty Cats will damn scratch you up, man.
Oh, I know it. I know it.
Get on the field with them Putty Cats. Them claws gonna come out, and they know how to fight now. Don't count them Putty Cats out. They're gonna count. LSU gonna lose games when they take teams for granted. Take Texas A&M for granted. They're gonna take the Mississippi States for granted. You know, they're gonna lose those games. Missouri had a great year last year, so they're not gonna sneak up on anybody. You know, Eli Drink was an excellent coach. They're not sneaking up on anybody. Everybody gonna give them their best game. So I don't see Missouri having that effect like it was. But Bama get past Georgia. I don't think nobody else gonna beat them. The sleeper game will be Oklahoma before Auburn. Yeah, Oklahoma game right before Auburn. That'll be the sleeper game because it'll be late in the season. They'll have to go to Norman, and then they'll turn around and we got to go to Norman, play Oklahoma, which should be ranked in the top 10. And then you turn around, come home and play against Auburn, which Auburn probably going to be clicking on all cylinders too. I think Auburn going to have a good season. I don't know why. I just got that feeling that Auburn going to have a really good season. I think Bama going to beat Georgia. Coach. I'm telling you, man. I just got a strange feeling, man, that Auburn going to have a really good season. I'm thinking Auburn gonna slip up and beat Georgia or come real close to beating Georgia. Because Georgia's gonna not pay attention to those freshmen. You know, Auburn got 2 5-star freshmen last year. So Auburn gonna be really.
Yeah, Cam's the truth. Cam Coleman's a monster.
Yeah. So I think Auburn's gonna be a sleeper, man. And then you think about my little cousin over there, Keldrick Faulk. He gonna be a monster coming off the end this year too. His second half of his freshman year was a monster, so he gonna be a problem this year. So Auburn gonna be tough, man. It's scary. It's really, really scary. I hate to say it, but Auburn gonna be a problem.
Hey, if they get the quarterback play, don't get me wrong. I like their wide receivers. They can't listen. Auburn may be the rival, but I'm always going to keep it real. All right, I'm always going to keep it real. Cam Coleman's a monster, a monster, man. Like he's going to be really tough to beat. Now, Jake, before I pass it to you, I also want you to. Because you and I have talked about this multiple times, right? About Texas and Oklahoma. So, but I also want to get your take on this.
Yeah.
Ebony's saying, hey guys, Saban really made me upset saying that the SEC champs will be Texas and Georgia. What's y'all's thoughts on that? Because I have a little bit of a psychological take to it.
Oh, I was thinking the exact same thing.
I'm in the same spot.
Yeah, I know exactly where what he was doing with that comment. 100%. And you know what's even funny is he calls out the secondary. That's the best part about it. But real quick, so I'll go down the line. First, I'll start with Texas, Oklahoma. I think they're ready for the SEC. They should have been the SEC a long time ago. I think it fits perfect that Brent Venables is now the head coach at Oklahoma. Because in the end of the day, you needed somebody who had that mindset of like, if this is a fight, I will fight you. I will fight anybody. Right? Brent Venables has that mindset, and he has brought a whole coaching staff who all have the same mindset. Like in both of his coordinators, dude, his offensive coordinator would probably beat someone's ass. Let's be honest. Like Seth Luttrell is not a joke. That dude is hardcore.
And I like him a lot better as a coordinator than a head coach, but as a coordinator, whew.
Well, and it's not like he did a bad job in North Texas. He did a good job, dude.
But
like
I just
North
think
Texas
he's a force.
Oh. Well, I mean, he has a ton of experience, man. He's been on some really like massive teams where North Carolina, they go 11-1, right? You go back to where he's with Mike Leach, right? Like back in the day. So The guy has the experience, he has the firepower, and he's a true quarterbacks coach. So you give that to Jackson Arnold, who is considered a weapon. I'm going to tell you right now, Oklahoma is my sleeper. Oklahoma is going to be very good. I think where Oklahoma will need to prove it, right? And everyone has said the same thing, is really in their offensive line. But if their defense can do what I think they'll do, I think Oklahoma is going to be really, really good. I think Oklahoma will be one of the more challenging games for Alabama out of everybody besides, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. Tennessee, going to be a great game. We'll see what Josh Heupel does over there.
I'm more worried about that OU wide receiver room than I am about the Tennessee wide receiver room.
Well,
all
for
respect
sure.
to Tennessee, but
100%. I 100% agree with that. I think you're right, though. If the Bama game, they get past Georgia, then I think they coast for a while. Like they have that momentum on their side, and you will start to see this just big climb. Then they'll probably right when you're going to face Oklahoma is a very unique time. And if Oklahoma can get over a few little humps right here and there, which I do think they will, it's just a matter of number one, offensive line, how fast can they just get everyone on par, which they got the right coach for it. Beanbo does an amazing job. We've seen what he does. You just go look at the stats and how many people he's put in the NFL. He can get people on the page really, really quick. Okay. But from here, right, like if they get that on page, then do they have the depth at defensive line? I think their secondary is really good. I tell you what, man, I think they're ready to smash mouth football. Like they're ready for that back there. And that's what you need in that secondary, especially this year with the way Zach Alley is going to call the blitz game. Okay. He's way more aggressive and he's going to be, there's going to be a lot of movement.
Great linebacker room too.
100%. So I think that's going to be the big thing. Do they have that depth that continues to flow through Oklahoma's D line? Okay, I feel like they do. At the same time, like they're going to get tested versus Ole Miss. You know what I'm saying? Like Ole Miss this year, what they brought in, if their portal heavy class isn't synchronized, then it's going to be definitely tested versus Ole Miss. You're going to really know what you're about when you play Ole Miss before you play Bama, right? So then you look at Texas. Texas is going to be an interesting one because Texas opens up, right? Or they play Georgia beginning of the season, correct?
Like, yeah, and isn't it
week
in
3?
Yeah,
week 3. That's going to be so. Texas is notorious, right? Sarkisian will have something put together for Georgia. If there's a game, if Texas will gain a lot of momentum if they beat Georgia. And don't get me wrong, Georgia's a phenomenal team. I think Kirby's in what they got going on there. And obviously everyone knows how good they're going to be. But if there is a point in the schedule where Georgia's going to be a little vulnerable and Texas is going to know how to play them because of Sarkisian and what he did last year, same time frame to Alabama, that would be the time frame. And I think you do see Texas potentially win that game. And that's where it's going to set this huge wave, right, of what goes on in the SEC. This year in the SEC is going to be a little crazy. I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be a little crazy. Bama does what Bama's supposed to do. They'll blow some teams out, and then they'll have a couple of close games, right? They can go undefeated, but there are some hurdles that they have to get by what I just mentioned. I think, do we see them go undefeated? As long as they stay locked in the mindset. Okay. Here's what's funny is where you have, now I get past the Oklahoma, Texas part. Okay. And nobody's saying that Texas is better than Oklahoma. I think
they're addressing each.
Got you.
They're in the comments talking to each other. Mars,
I got you.
Mars and Eric are going back and forth in the comments.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be real interesting. I think Georgia has a chip on their shoulder. I think Oklahoma has a huge chip. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they're really pissed off because there's been some disrespect because Texas is getting a lot of love. All right, Texas is getting a ton of love from the media. And I think Oklahoma's. I think those guys are pissed off. Go listen to like SEC Media Day and what they're saying. Like I think they're pissed off, and you know what? That's the attitude that BV wants. You know. So, but then real quick to this question, and sorry, I don't mean to keep going on, guys. I apologize, but I just want to answer these.
No, 100. No, I asked you to. And by the way,
Texas play Georgia October 19th.
Yeah, week 7.
Okay. Week 7, okay.
Week
all right. Well,
that's.
we'll see.
I
then.
thought it was earlier than that. Yeah.
If it was early, then I would say did feel better. But then now that I know it's week 7,
You
I
can't
don't.
disregard the prep for other games.
Yeah, they might be in that flow by then. Georgia probably beat them if it's week 7.
Georgia be on a revenge tour by then because they're gonna lose to Alabama.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. If there's one again, I'd rather see Georgia earlier in the season. I don't want to see them after week 4. I'll tell you that, because that's that time frame where the good teams really start to show, like, hey, we are that powerful. Like, our stuff is all starting to click, right? But with what Ebony asked, didn't like what Saban had said. It was almost like the perfect way to coach your guys without being in the locker room. And the reason why is because he says, well, the expectation is that they should be there, but I don't know if they're going to be there this year. I guess they better figure it out. They need to work a little harder because there's some teams out here that could kick their ass. That's something basically he would say to the team in the locker room. Oh, you guys think you're that good? Kiss my ass. Saban's famous saying. You know what I'm saying? When he's pissed off, as everyone says, I think it's his way of mentally saying, guess what? Don't get arrogant over there because you guys got #1 recruiting class. Don't get cocky because some people are starting to give you love because Josh Pate's giving you love. Joe Klatt's giving you love. There's a lot of media outlets saying, hey, Bama, you looking pretty good. You guys are going to be all right. Nick is saying in a sideways manner, saying, guess what? Y'all better stay humble and stay hungry.
Rat poison.
Don't. You're right. Get away. He just took rat poison and turned it into a really good sandwich. Okay? That's no longer rat poison.
And let's be very clear, this show at Around the Table Sports and Jake is not endorsing you to eat a rat poison sandwich. Do not go home tonight.
No.
And eat a rat poison sandwich.
You do that, then evolution's going to take care of itself.
Yeah, Darwinism might be true if you do that, but I have to do that for legal.
yeah, for 100%. But it's crazy, man. You think about this. You know what he does, Ty? You know what the best part that he did? He goes, you know why I don't have him in the SEC championship? He goes, because that's secondary. I just want everybody to think about one thing. Saban recruited these guys, #1. #2, that secondary is Saban's secondary. These are guys that he would have been coaching, right, directly. And he says, you guys won't make the SEC championship because that secondary needs to prove itself. Dude, he just dropped you want to talk about a motivation bomb into the secondary team rooms, into the safety and quarterback team rooms. He just dropped a massive motivation bomb. The guy who recruited you just told you that you better figure it the F out, because if you guys aren't good enough, you're not making the SEC championship. You know what that does to those guys' mindsets? He knows. He recruited them. He just lit it on fire and said, "Go ahead, go run through the wall, baby."
Malachi,
genius.
Devontae Smith, get on your shit.
Yep, genius, dude. I like what he did, man, and those players know it. They're like, but it was a smart move, dude. I like that.
Perfect.
I love truth, man. Saying instructions unclear, so just pour this poison back in the box and throw away the bread, or please advise. I think the bread's probably still good.
Bread's should be good.
And think about it. Keon Sapp, Damani Jackson. Nick Saban brought those kids in.
Oh, yeah.
So, man, he talking to his kids, like you said, Coach.
Well, he didn't bring in Keon, but still, right?
He actually was recruiting Keon Sapp when he got in the portal. Before he got in the portal, he was trying to bring him in. He was trying to get him before he retired. He was after Keon Sapp in the championship game. Like when he was calling the championship game, he talked to Keon Sapp after the game.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. I thought that was more so.
Probably recruited him in high school.
Yeah, I could see the connection there for sure. But I mean, still, regardless, I mean, you're talking about like this dude who is the secondary coach, he was the head coach, who literally just dropped a massive motivation bomb, not just for the team, but really for the one area where everyone's calling is the weakness, right? Or the question mark.
He called
beautiful. Beautiful.
He called
like
it the weakness itself.
Yeah.
But most of the kids in the recruiting cycle, he recruited them. Period.
Mhm.
Caleb Debor just had to secure them, but he
Yeah.
recruited most of the kids in that secondary.
100%.
Yeah. I don't have much to add to that. That's exactly the angle I was going to take. This is a psychological play. He's giving them motivation, and I love it. I love it. But gentlemen, I got to go eat dinner. I got a show at 8:00 over on the Bama Standard, the final
Got
whistle.
you.
If you are a Bama fan and you want more Alabama content, be sure to hop over to the Bama Standard, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, as we're going to be doing the final whistle. We got Matt Caddell on the show. We got some former Bama players, Chris
Love it.
James. Always a great time over there.
Good people, man.
But until then, we're going to pass it around the table, let everybody know where you can find all of their great content. And we're going to start with Coach Carl.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. My show is Coach Carr. I'm on the block with Coach Carr. So that's my YouTube channel, On the Block Sports Talk with Coach Carr. And you can find me on Twitter as Coach KD Taylor at On the Block Sports Talk. Other than that, if you want to come catch me, you catch me at some of my high school game this year. I'm coaching at a new school right now. I can't say it publicly where I'm coaching at until the board approves it sometime this week. So once the board approves it, then I'll let y'all know what school I'll be coaching at. So y'all want to catch a couple of my guys play. I got a talented roster, so I'm gonna be sending you some film to break down, Jake. I got a very, very talented roster.
Yeah, send it to me, man. You know me, man. I'm always willing to help out those young guys. So we did that. Coach, you sent me something just this month ago or so, and I broke down a player and sent them some stuff back, and it sounded like he liked it, so that was good.
The kids are different, Jake.
Hey, man, send me whatever, man. I'm always down to watch, man, and help guys out.
I'm talking about kids now. I got some Demonic Jacksons on my squad right now. So once we get approved by the board, get everything analyzed and get an announcement on by the school system, then I'll let y'all know. Then I get the film broke down. Then I get it sent to you. So y'all can break it down, analyze
Love
it. Other than that, man, I'll be around. Sometimes I'll be on the show with Coach Sean at JMO Sports Talk with just my humble opinion. I've been trying to tap in when I tap in. So if Coach Ty had me back and Coach Jake had me on, then y'all see me on their platform from time to time.
100.
But for right now, man, it's just me trying to get my football program ready. And thanks, man. I appreciate y'all.
100%. Thank you for being here, guys. Be sure to go check out Coach Carl's great content. And excited to see where you're going to be coaching, Coach. That's going to be a lot of fun whenever you can share that. That's going to be awesome. Jake, passing it to you, man.
Yeah. Great night. Fun times. Tuesday night. Again, make sure you guys catch us again on Friday morning. We'll be back Friday morning. We do this. Typically it's on Mondays, but we just schedule adjustments. We try to either, if we don't roll on Monday, we try to roll on Monday evening. We try to roll on Tuesday evenings. You can catch me though over at Set the Tone, Alabama and College Football Talk. Have a video out right now on Mill Row. If you guys haven't caught it, go check it out. Let me know. Throw the comments in there. If you like it, throw some thumbs up. Come be a subscriber. Want to get to 500. I think I'm at like 322 or 25. A lot of fun. But I'll have another couple of videos coming out this week. Going to set up some schedule for some lives. Get these guys rolling in. It's going to be fun. We're going to really start pumping out the content because fall ball is almost here. Everyone reports July 30th. They report July 31st, July 30th. So a lot of stuff to talk about. It's going to be fun. Come check it out. You can search it either with the name Set the Tone, Alabama and College Football Talk, or you search it with Twitter at Coach_Jmerr. It's all capital letters, JMERR. Coach_JMERR. Come check it out. Let me know. I'm excited, man, for the season. Pumped up. We're gonna have a fun time with these guys and just in general. It's gonna be good.
Love it. And next week, I will let y'all know in terms of content and everything because I will be in Virginia starting Saturday until like August 8th. So I'm going to be in Virginia for almost 3 weeks. So content's going to be a little bit different, but we'll keep it rolling, right? We'll still do some live streams, still have a great time. Until next time, We will see you all Friday morning. Enjoy your evening. Play some NCAA 25.
Facts.
And let me introduce you to the fourth member of the panel. Always quiet during the show. Lets us say our piece. But you already know, because of that, they get the last word. And that's the spinning wheel of doom. And it spins.